Hello, you're listening to Dishing It, a podcast focusing on all things food and drink in Scotland. Well, hold on to your hats, people. It's an exciting week here in Scotland as hospitality reopens following 4 months of closure. We've been teased by England and Wales getting back to dining out and drinking outside, but now we can join the exclusive club of stepping a little bit closer to normality. So, to mark the return of the industry, I'm joined by Stuart McPhee, Managing Director of Siberia Bar and Hotel here in Aberdeen, who joins me to talk about what's new for the bar, drinks recommendations, and the real impact of the pandemic on business. Aside from Siberia, Stuart also has been working on a drinks brand behind the scenes, Twisted Sisters, and he's getting ready to launch that shortly, and he tells us all about it. But before we go straight into today's episode, here's my food, travel, because we can do that again now, and general highlights from the past week. It's your essential dose of food news with your host, the Food Hoover. Okay, so on the note of bars reopening, you might be struggling a bit for inspiration on which beer gardens to go to and where to get booked into over the next few weeks. And local food blogger, wine swigger and recipe extraordinaire, the Ginger Chef, has taken the hard work out for you by compiling a bumper list, and I mean bumper list, of beer garden locations in Aberdeen and around Aberdeenshire. Check out her Instagram, I've linked it in the bio of this podcast, and look out for the yellow square on her grid and you'll get your 101 of where to drink in the region. And while you're there, check out her ingenious recipes. Phenomenal. Shops, cafes, restaurants, hairdressers, you name it, they are all open again, and it's been great to see the city centre a little bit more lively than the past few months. If you're after a gift to share, the Aberdeen gift card is the perfect gift for a friend, partner, family member, work colleague, the list goes on, to spend with over 160 businesses here in Aberdeen. Whether you want to gift a pizza lover with a dinner at Mac's Pizzeria, a shopaholic a shopping spree throughout the city, or gift a much needed trip to the hairdresser to tame an unsightly lockdown Barnet. It's a flexible gift to spoil any giftee and they'll be glad to have it. Staycations are definitely on the cards for this year, and a place that I'm delighted to see is reopening from the 29th of April is the How of Torbeg, just outside Ballater. Nestled in the heart of the Cairngorms, take your pick of glamping pods or the quirky shepherd's hut to stay in for a few nights and take in that lovely country air with plenty of places to explore nearby with Ballater, Braemar, Aboyne, hills all around to explore. After Aberdeen's local lockdown last year, me and my girlfriend escaped for a night to spend an evening next to the fire pit with marshmallows to toast, a bottle of red wine, and a glorious sunset sky over rolling hills. True perfection. People who don't like camping, don't worry, this place is for you. It is like a hotel. Great facilities, you don't have to pee in the woods, you've got toilet, shower facilities, it's great, and you can even got a space to boil your kettle as well. And finally, in true celebration of the return of food, the Backyard Beach Collective takes place from Friday the 30th of April to Monday the 3rd of May. Bringing a street food market, outdoor bar and beach vibes to Dona's car park. It's rammed with local producers like Smoke and Soul, Hayden's Woodfire Pizza, the T Smith Gin, and some new brands including Aberdam Dutch Fries. Very interested to try out that one. It's going to be one hell of a food weekend, that's for sure. Now, the 5,500 slots that were available to book over the weekend did get booked up in just 2 days. Yes, 2 days. But you never know, some good eggs out there might cancel their bookings if they can't manage anymore, so keep an eye on the bookings link, which is also in the bio of this podcast too. The Backyard Beach Collective is organised in support of Stacks Abs, a new market concept exclusively for independent businesses across food, retail and the arts. It's due to launch next year, but more on that after this week's podcast with Stuart. Enjoy. Hi Stuart, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, it's going well, thank you very much. Enjoying the fine weather up here in the northeast today. Extremely miserable, raining,
Yes.
Cold. We don't seem to be getting blessed with the weather that we are seeing in England, so we're just making the most of it.
Exactly, making the most. I know, I was waiting to say it's been wet and wild today. It's great to have you join the podcast, and even more tying that just a few days ago, Siberia announced its return on the 10th of May. How does it feel to be coming back?
A bit daunting, to be honest. I mean, I feel like we're going to be massively out of practice. This is like the longest lockdown that we've been, longest kind of period of closure that we've been through. from the tail end of December through until what will be the 10th of May. And I'm just worried we're going to be a bit rusty. We're going to, we're going to be dropping pints off trays. We're going to be, we're going to be getting checks wrong. We're just going to ease ourselves back into it. That's why we've kind of given us that 2-week window there between, the 26th when we can open outside. So everybody that will kind of open at that time, they'll get going then, and we'll, get the guys back in around then and get them out, training in the bar, get used to we've got a lot of new systems in place. We've put a bit of, a time into looking at, new booking systems, new till systems, and a new flow in the kitchen. We've expanded our kitchen, which allows us to look at how we bring forward a new food menu and a new food offering. So, there's a lot of newness coupled with that rustiness of coming back from being closed for so long. We're wanting to be a little bit cautious. And equally, I think I want to get out for some food and a cocktail or two myself.
Don't we all?
In between, because we've gone so much, from the last year of being like closed down, open. It's been very business focused, and I'm just kind of like, I've not actually had a pint, or I've not actually, gone out for dinner. I'm still like doing the same things that I'm doing, and I'm like, let's make sure, at least one night we get out and, have a nice meal somewhere.
Definitely. Call it research, taste testing. Do that that
Absolutely.
way. It's the best way to do it.
Competition. We're scoping out the competition. That's what we'll call it.
And for those who are listening, they might not know of Siberia, do you want to give us a background to Siberia and your role there? Yeah,
sure thing. So myself, I've been with Siberia now. I started there as a trainee assistant manager around about 7-8 years ago. Since then, I've worked my way up to general manager, and then subsequently I've become a director in the business about 2 years ago. And over that time, we've developed the kind of business model, as it were. It is a bit of a hybrid business. When I joined, it was known as Siberia Vodka Bar and Aberdeen City Centre Hotel. So it was one operating company trading essentially as like two separate businesses, to keep that different hotel identity and then also keep a separate kind of bar identity. And as that's kind of evolved, we've rebranded and now become, Siberia Bar and Hotel everything kind of under one roof, one destination within, Belmont Street for one-stop shop for all you need, eat, drink, stay type ethos. And that, has probably been one of the, crowning glories of our my tenure there in the last kind of 7-8 years is creating that hybrid business that allows us to move forward now. It served us particularly well, I think, before the pandemic in terms of allowing the hotel to have a bit more longevity, given that the hotel market in Aberdeen is notoriously difficult to maintain occupancy level. I think the hotel sector in the city has been one of the hardest hit in terms of closures and loss of rooms, loss of kind of bedrooms throughout 2020 into 2021. So we're very keen now to take all that we've learned in the last year, and we've done a lot of research in the last 3 months, and then push forward into reopening and beyond, and hoping beyond hope that we don't have to, things don't go the wrong way again and we end up being closed down.
I think we'll be okay, fingers crossed.
Yes.
That takes me on to my next question. So this week marks the reopening of the hospitality industry in Scotland.
Yeah.
I'd probably say, to say it's been hellish for the hospitality industry is probably putting it really lightly. It's much worse than that. But me personally, I think the media have really played down the lack of support that the hospitality industry has had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had the furlough scheme and Eat Out to Help Out, but was that enough?
Well, if you take Aberdeen on its own, we did not get Eat Out to Help Out. We got 3 days of Eat Out to Help Out because we went into a local lockdown.
Our local lockdown, I forgot.
So we didn't
blocked that from my memory.
No, so did I. We did not get that support. So we didn't get that, boost in trade or that kind of, the ability to get those first time customer visits due to that mechanism and then kick on from there. That did not happen for us. Furlough has been phenomenal in terms of being able to retain staff, which, for the last year, it's helped us keep them in a job and give them a job to come back to, because I know that my own business would survive. because I would do everything to make sure it did. But there's hidden costs within furlough, so there's things there like we have to pay national insurance, we have to pay pension contributions, there's holiday accrual that still happen throughout that time period that we still have to pay for. So furlough's not a complete, get out of jail free card. It's not a freebie, and I feel like that's been kind of understated slightly because, if you take, that might be a small cost at a small workforce, say 10, a workforce of 10 that's furloughed, it might be a bit of a nominal cost, you can absorb it. My own workforce, 25 to about 20, between 25 and 30, we were getting £3,000 of support grants in a month from the Strategic Business Framework, grants that were being given out by local authorities on behalf of the Scottish Government, and that £3,000 covered that cost for me in a month. But then I still have, contractual obligations, your utilities, gas, electric, water, anything over and above that, any contractual things like you might have with your card payment provider or your website hosting or your, there's, layers and layers above that. So there's nothing covering those costs, and that's just my own business. And then if you multiply that up into workforces of hundreds or workforces of 200s or 300s and then up to the thousands, you get yourself into a bit of a sticky wicket because, if it's not covering the cost for me, it's definitely not covering the cost for a lot of other people. And that £3,000 that is specifically for me comes out of those headline figures that the government like to kind of turn around and tell you that we've given hospitality X amount of million, which looks great to, on the face of things, when I really don't like to sound ungrateful to millions, I really don't. And I've said that a lot of the time when I've spoken about support. You don't want to seem ungrateful to receive funding, but it's hard when it's not enough.
Yeah.
And you've got businesses taking on debt in order to survive, and their long-term forecast is what they've got to work 3-4 years, and all the profit that they could make within those 3 or 4 years goes to pay off their debts. And then by the time they get to year 5, that's when they might start breaking a profit again, because every 3 or 4 months, debt's accruing at such a high rate that you're talking maybe about £20,000-30,000 of debt every quarter as we've gone through this. So that's, from kind of small and medium businesses within the sector. So it's very, very difficult to say, with the support that we've been given, that it's been enough, because for me, it certainly hasn't been. A lot of it's been particularly confusing when it comes to broader support for, say, the late night sector, nightclubs and so on, and live music venues. There's such a, there was a plethora of funding. There was funds, and nobody was sure which one they fell into. And then all of a sudden, hospitality had one definition and nightclubs had another definition, and then nightclubs were excluded from this fund, and then they could get into this fund. And there was just a lot of cutting around the edges. And I think support is twofold. It's the financial support, but it's also that understanding of what it is that we're going through, and a recognition of the sacrifices that are being made at the altar of public health. We've all gone through the last year to try and play our part in it, but it really seems to what end from our end as a business, what have we sacrificed by way of the next decade of trying to recover for this.
It's just crazy, and I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't. I think everyone hears furlough scheme, oh great, you can keep your staff, but they don't think of the bigger picture of all the other costs that still have to go through.
No,
and it is hard.
They don't, but I mean at the same time, I think furlough, and I'd stress this is my own particular opinion. I think furlough's done a couple of things. It's allowed people within the hospitality sector to have a consistent earning over the period of time, so they all have had the same 80% for that length of time, whereas if they were on, say, 0-hour contracts and it was variable hours from week to week. I mean, some weeks you might get 30 hours, some weeks you might get 20 hours, some weeks you might get 10 because it's really quiet, or as you go through that, that in itself poses its own challenges. But now we're going to have this experience of all these people that have had the consecutive, month on month with the same wages, and that in itself might be a problem going forward. Trying to maintain that for people if business isn't as good. when we do come back, which I don't think that will be the case, but it is a worry. And it's also, it's kept people from questioning things, in my opinion. Furlough has been great, so the government are paying everyone's wages, so let's not necessarily ask too many questions. Yeah. Let's just, quite happy to be furloughed, I think, is the general consensus. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because, you're doing what we should be doing during this time, and they were able to comply with the restrictions that are in place due to furlough. But, there's not that much accountability going about, because there's not much pressure for the accountability to be there.
Well, everyone listening, when we can go out, order over what you need, and if you're not hungry for dessert, order it anyway and take it home in a box. Just order up, pay more than you need to, help everyone out. And I think that's what everyone needs to do, and support local as well. A highlight theme for me from the food industry was collaboration, and I think that always is a theme anyway, but I feel like the pandemic really strengthened that. I guess with Belmont Street on its own, there was all the businesses kind of grouped together to do the alfresco dining outside. Do you think the pandemic did strengthen collaborational spirit, I should say?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think a lot of that can be seen in when the hospitality industry came together during the lockdown. It was the Aberdeen Hospitality Together group was founded during that local lockdown, because there was a need for us to come together to prove that we weren't the problem. We weren't the issue. Yeah. It wasn't, pubs were not to blame for what happened. Or hospitality was not to be blamed for what happened, and I think we came out the side of that with re-establishing our, re-establishing that confidence within the public. Across the piece, there has been great collaboration. People working together, like you see Jojo's and Books and Beans on Belmont Street there with the same kind of canopy over the top of each other, and that has really helped them. You've got the whole of Little Belmont Street that has been cordoned off for sections for each business to take advantage of outside as well. And I think that, to me, that working together ethos is something that we are definitely taking forward into the business for the next food menu that we're looking at, to try and collaborate with people and help them. We're looking at working with people like that are small independents that we can help. We want to try and create that kind of circular economy around the city centre that shows that we can support each other and we can change, and that we can, use this collaboration model to improve, not just the offering in the city centre, but the standard of living in the city centre, the potential that the city centre has can be found within that collaboration. It will take time. Every problem under the sun's not immediately going to be solved, but as long as we come at it with a positive attitude and we know the right people that we can help solve it with, I think that goes a long way.
Definitely. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they always say.
It certainly does. Certainly does.
I remember seeing a really good tweet of yours, and it was about bouncing forward rather than bouncing back after the pandemic. What's 3 learnings that you'll be taking with you into the new chapter?
I think that we will be going through like a kind of hybrid approach to service for sure. I think we've really enjoyed table service, which isn't something that you would necessarily associate with the venue, before. That's definitely been something that we'll be taking forward. So I suppose that's one thing. Confidence in my own ability, like in terms of doing things like this and speaking to various media, whether that's press or television or whoever, just generally, a bit more self-belief that I'm people keep telling me when I do that I do quite well. So, I'm generally quite self-deprecating when it comes to that. I'm like, oh, was that good? Was it? What? So, I mean, a little bit of that is good for myself in terms of a learning. And then I suppose the third thing is just, it's no fear, that you can't we can't progress and we can't go forward as a city, and also ourselves as a business, and in my own case as 2 businesses, with any fear about, if you've got a question to ask, you ask the question, or if you've got something to do, you've got to find out who to ask the question of and get by it. A lot of people potentially let that fear kind of inhibit them, or could you do that, or could mm-hmm. For me it's just kind of like, well, take it head on. Just take that confidence and take it head on. No fear with whatsoever, and have no fear if you're changing your business model. I mean, for us, we've basically ripped up our food menu and are completely starting again. And that takes a lot of courage for a business to do that. Mm-hmm. You could easily just lean back on, the old faithfuls.
Massively. I think that is a thing a lot of people have taken from pandemic, is like grabbing the bull by the horns and just going with life's too short, got to jump in with it. I'm a sucker for a good social media post, and back in Christmas I loved your Love Actually inspired Christmas post where you spoofed the Keira Knightley on the doorstep scene. It was absolutely brilliant. If you were to travel back in time and visit yourself on a doorstep in snowy Aberdeen, what message would you pass on to yourself?
So I got asked this question at an event I did for Aberdeen Uni a while ago when we talked about an entrepreneurial response to a pandemic, and my answer was that I wouldn't change a thing, and that was just on the basis that I trusted myself. I trust every step that I've made in this last year, and to me we've come out of it stronger for everything that we've gone through it and experienced. We've learnt a lot. We've learnt a lot about the mechanics of how things work in both local government and national government, and I think politics is very much there to stay within our lives. It's very much cemented into what it is that we can and cannot do right now. So my message would be, if it was written on a card and I was dropping it down, it would just be trust in your convictions. Stick to what you think is right. You've got a really solid moral compass, and if you think it's right, then it's right, and just stay true. Because that in my experience of the last year is what served me well. Is in the absence of the actual guidance, or the absence of actually knowing what to do, or even in the first few days, in the absence of the furlough scheme, for example, just trusting in your own instincts and just knowing what mechanisms you have in play to keep your staff from panicking. At that first kind of stage, we were like, right, well, what can we do at this stage? We were like, right, so we've got holidays. We can use holiday pay. We can do that. Everybody, it's going to be fine. We'll give everybody 2 weeks holiday till we figure out what's going on. And then everyone was like, oh, that's sound. Everybody chilled at that point. I chilled out at that point. We were like, right, okay. And then, 3 days later or whatever it was, oh, there's this furlough scheme. Great. Fantastic, So, just being able to be confident in what it is that you believe to be right.
Yeah. And that must have been like a massive obviously your staff were stressing out, but obviously you would have been stressing out, like not knowing what way to go. How was that, managing both sides of that? Obviously being it was incredible. It was really, really like an absolutely tumultuous week. That back in March 2020. So within the business there's 3 directors. There's myself and there's 2 other directors. Both of them were based overseas at that point, one in Thailand and one in South Africa, so it was just me, only man there. So what we had to organise was, we had to organise the staff, and then we had to organise a building shutdown, none of which we had ever done before. Nobody's ever shut the building down. A lot of businesses generally have never, turned it off. So we had, we just do it. We just keep going. So we turned everything off. It was just a case of make a list, check it twice, and get through it. It was very difficult, but we just went at it in the most practical way possible and tried to think logically about it. And for me, the most important thing was to make sure that the staff were protected. And once we'd done that, then the rest was just arbitrary. It could have been picked up at a later date. And then for 2 months, it was just making sure that the building was secure and nobody was trying to break in. That was it. Keep the shop safe.
That's it. Keep your shop safe. Absolutely.
Right, let's move on to food and drink now. So a highlight for me at Siberia is the home shots. So rhubarb rock is my go-to. That's always the one that I always go for. But let's pretend that I've never been in Siberia before and I'm walking in for the first time, but I know I want 6 house shots. What shots are you recommending?
Oh well, everybody that I'll attest to my like for sour plume
Oh,
shots.
yes.
That they are they're basically just sugar and vodka, but they're my go-to. They're definitely my go-to recommendation, and both on a personal level, if I'm allowed a beverage, then I'll definitely partake in a few sour plumes. But if I don't know if I would recommend as many as 6. I think everybody, but much like yourself, I think everybody, has tried the board and they've found their favourite one.
Got their ones.
I think they've got their ones. Mine's definitely sour plume. Yours is rhubarb rock. I think the best thing to do when you get it, like if you've never been in before, is just get yourself a roulette paddle. Try and avoid that chili shot, and just try a variety. Try a variety of them for sure.
Oh, good answer. Good plug. Get people in. Try it for themselves. And you mentioned that the food menus had a huge overhaul. If you can reveal anything that's going to be on the menu, what would be your recommended order?
Well, we've already teased out some bits and bobs. We've been developing a pizza menu for a while now. It's a big direction change for us. It's a big thing to kind of hang our hat on. We were very conscious throughout the pandemic that we didn't have a food offering that was necessarily deliverable. Everybody kind of alternated their business to food deliveries. Mm-hmm. And we didn't necessarily see ourselves with an identity that set us apart enough to enter that space. We didn't think we would do ourselves justice. So we've spent a bit of time developing a pizza menu with a really solid independent ethos. We think that if we get the building blocks of that right, a mind-blowing dough, so you've got a great base, a simple but effective sauce that we can have as our own. It's our pizza sauce. It's Siberia's pizza sauce, and then build up from there, whether that's with we were talking a lot about vegan mozzarella over the last few days. We've been talking about smoked mozzarella. We've been really over-analysing and over-egging every kind of point of it to just build that solid base, so that it doesn't, it shouldn't particularly matter what you put on top of it. The toppings are a choice thing. If you have the base right, then the rest, you can use that, like I say, that circular economy, that supporting economy of, people potentially like Smoke and Soul who've referenced that you've spoken to before, or, Great Glen Charcuterie is a fantastic supplier of, venison meats and so on, and from the Cairngorms. They, that allows us to have that mechanism that we can do that with, and allow us to build up that food side of our business that, people maybe come to us for, mac and cheese, or maybe they've come to us in the past for a specific burger, but we've never really stood out within the food marketplace within Aberdeen, in my opinion, because we've never had anything that defines us. And I'm really keen to make sure that this pizza experiment does do that.
Oh, that sounds great. I mean, I love pizza. Pizza is my go-to. Most important question, will Hawaiian pizza feature?
No.
What?
No. There will be no...
Stuart, come on.
They cancel the call. There will be no pineapple on my pizzas. Unless I might have to take a day. If I take a day off and a pineapple appears in a pizza, that's the only time. I fundamentally disagree with pineapple on pizza, but people might try and prove me wrong. We were trying to keep things relatively simple to start off with, nice and accessible for people, so we don't want to scare anybody with any pineapple. But what I will say is, so far, in terms of the menu that's been written, I think we're on our second draft of it now. The guys in the kitchen team have put a really good effort into some of the topping choices there. They're messing around with pulled jackfruit, so I'm not to give too much away, but I'm really quite excited about. So it's kind of like a Fanta orange barbecue sauce pulled jackfruit type thing that they're working on, and it sounds and it blew my mind. I was like, you know what, you guys are hitting some really good buttons with that. So they've really, because for me, when I was constructing the menu, I was really conscious, you don't just want the vegan and vegetarian stuff thrown at the end. You don't want it to be a separate part. For me, I was like, right, we're going to do numbers. The pizzas are all going to be numbered 1 to 10. And within that, there's going to be, they're just going to be in there.
Yeah.
And they're just going to be the options. It's not like they're going to have to go down here to find it. But the one thing they will find on the side is we are going to have what is our first ever eating challenge.
Yes.
In Siberia, which is something that I've wanted for a long time, and it's not like you've got to eat 10 pizzas and get a pizza free type vibe. It's not that in the slightest. It's very much what we're going to do is we're going to spice things up. It's a spicy pizza challenge, so we're just going to basically be making your eyes sweat. And seeing if you can eat the pizza and get your photo up in the Hall of Fame, and that's something I've wanted to do for a long time. I think it lends itself to a more of a food focused business, and I'm really quite excited about that one because it's going to be different and it's going to be a challenge, and I think that's something that's unique. It's something that's unique. I don't see it much around the city centre.
Yeah, there isn't actually. Now you say it, there's actually not many. I can't actually think of anywhere that does that eating. I mean, there's Asheville Whale, but there's that. But people have taken that one on. Yeah.
But I like, and that's kind of like more like the eat 10 pizzas get one free kind of line. This is going to be Hall of Fame. Unique, and I think that should be something that does scream different, and I think people will be keen to try it and challenge each other. I think every pizza that we make is going to be unique, and every challenge itself will be unique because the sauce will be made bespoke for the challenge. So I'm excited about that one.
Well, I'll be packing my eating jeans for that day, when that day comes. Yeah. Siberia has definitely put its stamp on mixology with its many, many cocktails. What's your favourite cocktail to make? For
sure, my favourite cocktail. So the first ever cocktail that we shook in the bar was an Espresso Martini.
Oh, yes.
And an espresso, and it was a rum teeny, more to the point. That's to this day is up there with one of my favourite drinks. And I'm sure the bar staff will attest that a porn star martini is also up there with one of my favourites. But we try and do all of ours a little bit different to what you would get in other places. So there's little twists and little quirks and little homemade things in there that we try and put together. I think the Guava Nice Days kind of has become our signature serve almost as a drink. It's very unique to the venue. You won't get that anywhere else. So there was a lot of time and effort from the team there over throughout 2019 into 2020 in terms of training and learning and improving that side of the business that is really now paying dividends when we were doing this different kind of style of service, of table service, of people wanting these. I think in general, I think the drinking culture really lends itself now to that as a product. People want that. They want to be able to go wherever they want to go, but they also want to go there and drink a porn star in every place. Like old manny pubs included. Do you know what I mean? They want what they want. Yeah. That's what they're wanting to keep. It's like I would go most places and I would have a pint, and that's available everywhere. It's kind of coming round to that point with cocktails and people trying their hand at it. And that's very much what we did in the first instance, and we've learned and we've trained and we've, kind of improved over time, and we will keep improving.
Definitely. And I've had the rum teeny before, and I can confirm it is banging. It is good.
Good.
Could hook that up to my bloodline. It'd be great. If you were to make a cocktail to represent you, what would it be called, and what would you be putting in it?
Cocktails, probably like a surplum. So just surplum times 10 and no, I'm joking. I don't know. That's very interesting, and a cocktail that would reflect me. I think what the team would tell you would be a White Russian, because there was a piece in the Evening Express about me telling the Evening Express how to make a White Russian, and there was a video of me making it, and I just got the absolute mick taken out of me for doing it just the way that I did it. They were just taking the mick out of me, and they just said, obviously, like, I'm like the White Russian guy now, and every every time I go to order a cocktail or anything, they just kind of ask me, "Oh, is it White Russian?" And I'm like, "Oh, no." So I'm not entirely sure what it would be actually if I was to be a cocktail or make a cocktail.
A sewer plume mixed with a White Russian sounds
absolutely something like that. But I mean, I could take my Siberia hat off and put my Twisted Sisters hat on for a second. I mean, when we're bringing out our drinks range, we'll be bringing out a ready to drink cocktail range. So there'll be 3 strands of ready to drink cocktails, bottled cocktails on that one that we'll be producing. So we're going to be producing my favourite one, and that is an Almond Old Fashioned, and it's really fine. Just over ice, straight pour over ice with that. Or you know what, I could see myself, much as I do with the sewer plumes on a day, yes, if there was a need to play catch up, or if there was a need to be drinking, you could definitely be doing shots of that. So it's very interesting products that are coming out from us on that front. And I suppose if I could crawl inside a bottle of cocktail, it would definitely be that one, given how much how much recipe development and sampling I've done on that in the last year.
So you've been general manager at Siberia for just come up to 8 years, you said. What's been your highlight over your time there?
I would say in terms of highlight, I think it's, I've won quite a few awards in my time there. In 2019, we were nominated at the Scottish Licensed Trade Awards as Best Independent Bar in the country, so up against 4 other independent bars in the country. So, to me, that acknowledgement by peers on that level means a lot, and it means obviously I'm doing something right over the piece. So it's also good to get, that kind of gratification up north, because normally those awards are dominated by Central Belt, so it's nice to, break the mould in that sense. And very much, I think the rebrand that I alluded to earlier on, moving the 2 businesses from being separate entities to having that one identity, and driving that onward from there, outside of any kind of decorating you could do, or menu changes you could do, or staff changes you could do, that one single act has really given the business that longevity going forward that's allowed us to be a lot more versatile.
So true. And you mentioned the kind of rebranding and interiors and stuff, and I think it was a few weeks ago you shared the picture of, was it back in the 80s? What it looked like, and it looked absolutely mouthing.
Yeah. Well, I think I referenced it earlier on. I was out at our warehouse today, and out in our warehouse there are some of the old things from back in the day, like from radars and so on, like the old horse that used to sit in the windows in the warehouse, and some of the old signage on the window and stuff,
Right.
And it's just kind of like, wow, like, what must it have been like back in the day, like before I could even, go into pubs and clubs and so on, ever since I've been in them, no one can smoke. The smoking ban came in just, before I started really going into pubs and clubs, and that's something that, when someone talks about, I'm like, what on earth are you even going on about? What do you mean you used to sit in here and smoke? I couldn't even imagine that.
Get out.
I couldn't even imagine. I would have a, it's just things have changed so rapidly, in terms of both consumer trend and legislation over the last 15 years even, that the environment that we're in now compared to what the environment would have been back then is incredible.
Do you ever think of incorporating some of the old stuff you got in the warehouse back into, or is it so old that you actually couldn't incorporate it?
No, it's in pretty good nick. It's in pretty good nick out there. And I think what we've toyed with that a few times. Radars itself has got a very good reputation amongst a certain generation. In Aberdeen City and Shire, it's referenced quite extensively. And one thing that we did consider was, should we be creating a separate food brand within the business that perhaps is maybe harking back to that? So something like Radar's Kitchen, or something was what was on the table at one point, kind of thinking about how we would move that food offering forward. But we've really kind of shied away from that on the basis that, we need to put things to bed. You always need to put things to bed. And if something's going to, you've got to move forward, you've got to make your own path. Yeah, you can call on it. Social media is a great entity for, like throwbacks and, pulling all these kind of things out of the archives. But really what we need to be doing is, creating our own, Siberia for this age group or for Siberia in its own, standalone right to be as memorable in people's consciousness as radars. And I think that in itself is the challenge.
So Aberdeenshire have many alcohol brands to boast about. What are your 3 top local drink brands, and why do they make your list?
3 top local drinks brands. Well, Twisted Sisters Drinks, they're a great brand. They're brand new. They are going to be making hard seltzers and ready to drink cocktails. So they're number 1 on the list. Second on the list for me as a beery kind of guy, I'm a big fan of 6 Degrees North. I think the beers that the guys put out over there, for me, very good quality, and I like the bars as well. But one brand that I've worked closely with over time, and it's it's not the most prominent or well known gin brand within the Shire, but it's Verspress Gin. The guys out in Rothy Norman. Blackford Craft Distillery is the name of.
I've not actually heard of them.
Their business. Verspress Gin and Verspress Vodka is their product, and they've planted a cider orchard out in their farm as well. So they'll be bringing a cider to market, hopefully out in Aberdeenshire's first cider, I think, in the next year, I would hope, for them. So a little nod to them, good friends of mine.
Good. So looking out with the Northeast, where's a bar in Scotland that you can't wait to go back to?
Oh, a bar in the whole of Scotland. Well, to be honest, the bar that I can't wait to go back to is the Ithenview Hotel in the village that I live in. I can't wait to get back in there and just see some locals and, enjoy a pint. I know they'll be open on the 26th. Or I hope they're open on the 26th. I haven't heard yet. But I think, it would probably be something like go back home in Kirkcaldy and just have a pint with my brother, and at some local that's near his house. To me,
home comforts.
Yeah, I think it's important to get back into hospitality spaces to use them. But to me, there's as much value in a social club or a village pub or a hotel lounge or a whiskey bar. That there's as much value in any of the settings than just one particular one. I would say that I'm dying particularly to go and get a Pisano pizza in Glasgow.
Oh, yes.
In terms of places that I like to go when I'm away, that's definitely one of them as well. So.
Go on, you can say Siberia.
No, listen, you know what, I'm sick of the sight of the place. I can't wait until there's other people in it because I'm fed up looking at the walls, so I'm sick of the sight of it.
Hearing the footsteps.
Absolutely, it's too hollow.
Okay, right, so that's Siberia and your food recommendations out the way. Let's focus on Twisted Sisters. So you've taken the leap to start up your new venture. Kind of touched on it earlier, but tell us a bit more about it and how did it all come about? Sure,
it's not my fault. I'll start off by saying that. It's my sister-in-law. She is the brains behind the operation.
Is she the Twisted Sister?
She's the Twisted Sister, as it were. So there you go. That's the base of the story. So my sister-in-law, Ruth, she's the manager at Attic nightclub in town in Aberdeen. And I've known her for years. We've worked together for we've known each other for about 12, 13 years, something like that. And we have always wanted to do something. There's always been some kind of niggle in the back of our head. We've always wanted to do something, and she had spent her time on furlough really wisely. She was on accelerators, business accelerators, startup courses, trying to figure out what it is that she could do with her time. And she came up with this idea for a drinks company that did hard seltzers and ready-to-drink cocktails. Ready-to-drink cocktails were kind of primarily aimed to that premium end of the market where you can get that cocktail experience in your house without that kind of hassle, or being able to put the right flavors together, the right amount of flavors together. So that kind of section of the market. And hard seltzers are in phenomenal growth in America, and the UK is no stranger to being too far behind those trends. So it's very much on the cusp of kicking off once the hospitality industry can reopen again. We'll be making the most of our on-trade contacts and getting it into wherever we can get it into. In the first instance, we'll be having seltzers in cans and the three variants of that are coconut and lime, which seems to be everybody's favourite so far. Rhubarb and ginger and blueberry and elderflower, and we'll be having 3 cocktails that are bottled. That'll be an Almond Old Fashioned that I've already mentioned, strawberry and vanilla margarita, and a Espresso Martini, a vanilla Espresso Martini. So we've got six products that are coming to market, and we're really excited about all of them. One of my next projects, after bringing those to market, is figuring out how we can potentially, get those seltzers on draft and get them into some venues. I think draft seltzer could be a really big growth market in the next few years. So there's a lot of potential around the business. A lot of hard work around the business. It's pretty relentless, but it's really been born out of that no fear ethos, and the ability to conduct almost everything over the internet. The normalization of this kind of style of communication has really, emboldened the potential of ourselves here, because, normal times, or pre-COVID as people call it, you'd be wanting to have sit-down meetings with certain people, and and it really helps synergize diaries, and really helps you get to the meetings that you need to get to faster, because you don't necessarily have to have introductory coffees, or it's basically just like an introductory email, and then
straight in.
Let's get down to business, and that's been very productive for us. Really looking forward to bringing our product to market. We've been working with some fantastic people, a fantastic marketing team, fantastic production team, and now the crux is coming down to our sales strategy and a lot of planning on our sales strategy. And I'm really looking forward to being able to shut people up that keep asking me for samples and keep asking me for, can I try it yet? Because, they're going to be fed up of me making them try it by the time I actually get the product to market.
If I've done my research right, you guys are the first kind of hard seltzer company in the Northeast, in Scotland probably as well, really.
For sure, yeah. I would say we're the first in the Northeast region. I mean, Brewdog brought out a seltzer called Clean Press, that they make in Ellen. We have, I would say, 2 other competitors within the Scottish space for hard seltzers at the moment. There's a brand called For It, and then there's also a brand that is produced in Glasgow called Lilo. And as far as Scottish seltzer market goes, we're pretty small just now. And as far as the seltzer market in the UK goes, it's very much dominated by those headline names at the moment, that you can relate back to the American seltzer market of your White Claws, your Mike's Lemonade, and there's some startup brands coming into that space, European brands like Bodega Bay, a UK brand called Dirty, which is not Dirty conventionally, it's DRTY, and there's other people, entering into that arena, as it were. And I think what's interesting for me, especially with a brand that has a story and a brand that has a really good grounding in family and inclusivity, and trying to be something that already sets itself apart before you even, you're even got a can in your hand, serves it better in the longer term against these big faceless, companies that are producing millions and millions of cans that flood the market with these things. They all look the same. They all have one-dimensional flavors. They all don't actually, my experience of hard seltzer before we considered this was that, your seltzer it's raspberry, or it's lime, or it's definitely developing more now with flavor combinations. And I think there's some iced tea infused variants nowadays, but it's just progressing very, very quickly. And we're hoping to, hitch our sail to that mast and sail along with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was going to say. Like, in summer, it seemed like there was like a huge boom in like hard seltzer from the bigger companies that you mentioned. And when I heard about you guys coming in with your flavors, it was like a breath of fresh air, because obviously the ones that were all in the supermarkets, it was like your limes, your raspberries, all very samey. And when I saw all your ones, I was like, oh geez, these are going to be insane. And now that I know about the cocktail range as well, like that's like just absolutely amazing. What's your
because to me you wouldn't just generally go up to the shelf and pick a lime of anything. I mean, that's with my own palate. Yeah. Like, I don't think I would ever really go up and have like a lime flavored something. Yeah. You know, it's very very niche.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. What's your favorite flavor from your current line that you've got?
Favorite flavor is the coconut and lime. That to me is the first one that I would be trying to move into draft. It's been the one that's been widely remarked on by anybody that we've sampled or anyone that we've focus grouped or been able to focus group, that they were most surprised by, and it was the most interesting flavor. So for me, that's the one. I'm really keen to just get them out there, because the more people that taste them, the more people that will like them as well.
Definitely get the seed planted firmly.
Absolutely.
Is there a flavour combo that you've not mentioned that you'd like to introduce, one that you're maybe hesitant with because you don't know how it's going to be taken?
No, but one thing that we're looking at down the line in terms of a variation is to vary the base spirit in it. So they're all vodka based at the moment, but one idea that I have, and I'll hasten that it's just an idea at this stage, is in order to get footholds in regional markets would be to use regional spirits as the base. So if it was possible to build a seltzer that, and this again is just a fictional idea that I have at the moment, but if you take Glasgow, if you wanted to try and get a foothold in Glasgow, if you could try and fashion a Buckfast based old like hard seltzer. Listen, I've not done the chemistry on it yet. I don't know if it balances. I don't know if we could get a good flavour out of that. You know, that to me, you know, you could potentially then flip that on its head and look at Edinburgh and be like, right, so could you use Edinburgh gin as a base there and you know, try and do that, go back to that, you know, point of your first question that you asked me about collaboration within the industry as a whole. That to me, and that crossover from a startup brand into an established brand, I think that there's something that we would be very keen to try and make work in the future.
Amazing opportunity to do that, and you've just reminded me of how much I miss a Bucky Bomb. Absolutely.
Oh, you and me both. Actually, I should have said
Bomb.
that. That would be my cocktail of choice.
A Bucky. what would you mix one, Bucky?
Oh, I don't know. What did we do? We did a Buckfast mojito for a while. That was actually really nice. Actually, it was really nice in the summer. I think it's 2018. I think we did a Buckfast mojito. It was really good.
Right. Okay. Well, when I come back into Siberia, I'm going to go to the bar and I'm going to say, "Can I get a Bucky? Can I get a Bucky mojito, please?"
Yeah,
recommended
sure.
I'll
make you one. Yeah, recommended by me. I'll make it.
I love it. And yeah, I love the branding of Twisted Sisters. It's kind of like for anyone who's not seen it, it's kind of like a Picasso meets Warhol type of kind of blend. It's really great.
Absolutely.
Where did the inspiration come from?
So going to a couple of marketing agencies and not liking it, and then eventually finding somebody that just understood what it was that we were putting down. So there was a lot of Pinteresting and a lot of looking at things that we did like that we wanted to bring into a style of branding, and from there building it outwards. And we put it together. They put it to a few people, and this, the illustrator at this company, they just brought it to life, and that in itself was a really valuable exercise, because it showed that they understood what it was that we were actually saying, and and who it was that we were actually trying to reach with what we were doing as well. I think that was important, because I think a lot of people might be alienated by women on the can, and people were saying to us, and we've had some feedback from various, we've entered a couple of funding competitions and stuff like that, and people were concerned that we're niching our market too much by having we're in the RTD category, we're within the hard seltzer category, which is very much seen to be a male dominated with the brands that are in there just now. And what we're doing is creating a female category, so we're appealing a female brand within that category, which is appealing to a smaller market segment. But I don't really believe that in the slightest. To me, what I see there is something that appeals not just to me as a male, but to anybody really. And it's about that, and that in itself is that foundation stone of that inclusive brand. Comes from that story on the can right the way out. It's about it's about being able to express yourself. It's about it's about conflict. There's two sisters in every can, and there'll be a narrative of storyline of advertising that will run between the conflict between the two. You've got on the can, you'll be like one likes coconut, one likes lime, but you put them both together and you get a perfect combination. That in itself is a really simple narrative, but a really powerful narrative, because two people coming together, the sum of their parts is more powerful than they are individually. And that is, that story relates back to themes like family and themes like I say, inclusivity and equality and all these kind of things that are important to talk about these days. And I think it's something to me that is going to be really powerful going forward, that we can evoke to draw people's attention to it, and also have people's attention drawn to the right things about it, as opposed to being concerned about it being a brand that might over-segment itself within a marketplace.
Yeah, and I think the people who gave that feedback, I think, will be eating their hat one day, because it sounds like a crock of rubbish.
To me, it does as well. That's what I thought when I read it.
If I'm just like browsing in the shop and I'm looking at different brands of alcohol or whatever, like I buy for the bottle half the time, or I buy for the can.
Yeah.
Like I look at like the story and whatever, but I wouldn't look at a can and see a woman on it and be like, oh, that's not for me.
Exactly.
That's not it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
but,
I agree.
No, that's interesting to hear. So, right, that takes us on to our final question. You're making a can of happiness to remedy the worst of days. What's the recipe that you're putting into that can?
For me, it's just my family. I think the mix that I have at home here. When I lived in the city centre, I never felt like I was at home. That was my own personal opinion. I don't mean that as in like my home never felt like my home. I just never felt like I would be at home. So I'd be wanting to do this or wanting to do that or wanting to go here.
Want to always be out and about.
Yeah, absolutely. So to come home, and then what's here is I've got big garden, I've got 2 dogs, I've got 3 kids, I've got my wife, like it's that if I could bottle all that up and put that in it, that's kind of like my both my motivation for everything that I do. It's what keeps me going throughout, challenging days or tiring days or whatever, knowing that everything that I'm doing now, whether that's Twisted Sisters or Siberia, or whether it's, I'm very vocal about how the city centre should come through this in Aberdeen, it's all looking way further ahead than I feel a lot of other people are. Because for me to be able to, hold on to that jar of happiness, I've got to have something to give back to it. I've got to feed back to it, and this is all legacy stuff that I'm trying to do here, that 10, 15, 20 years down the line, all the effort that I put in now at this stage, that's when it becomes worth it. They've got things to call their own, or businesses to call their own that they can be in charge of, or they can have careers in, or, and that in itself to me is what fills me with happiness, is the potential of what I can do for my family, basically.
Amazing. And that's such a nice place to leave off tonight's episode, and a nice note to kind of, for anyone listening, to take whatever you're doing, just try and make it your outward happiness, everyone else's happiness. Carry it forward. Well, thanks so much for joining me tonight, Stuart. It's been great to have you on, and I am very much looking forward to what Siberia's got to offer, and the bright and fizzy future of Twisted Sisters as well. It's going to be great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Kind words.
Thanks so much to Stuart for being so candid in our chat and giving us just a glimpse of how tough the past year has been for the industry. Great things are on the horizon for not only Siberia, but I can't wait to get my hands on a can of Twisted Sisters. That coconut and lime flavour, blimey. But I reiterate what I mentioned earlier on, pay over your bill wherever you can. It's been a rocky few months, as we all know, but let's help the local food industry by digging deep and giving back as much as we can. So next week, I'm chatting to Dave Griffith. You guys going to trip up on that? So next week, I'm chatting to Dave Griffiths. Oh God, I can't say it. So next week, I'm chatting to Dave Griffiths, who is behind the favoured dining spot Avo, which took Aberdeen by storm with avocado on toasted lights and massively changed perceptions of the Aberdeen food market. I mentioned Stacks Abs at the start of the podcast, and Dave is also behind this too, so we'll be looking ahead at what to expect from what looks like a real game changer for Aberdeen City. Right, I'm off down to the corner shop for a bottle of Bucky, but in the meantime, stay safe, eat well, and speak soon.